All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. Or if you didn't leave, hello. So we know that the last part was a little bit brief, and it was because we only had one candidate up there, and we wanted to make sure that all three candidates on both parties had the same amount of time to speak. So now we're going to continue the forum with our Democratic candidates, who will also be in primary on September 12th. And Sarah would like to introduce our first candidate, Ms. Lynn Pinder.
Mrs. Lynn Pinder has been a resident of Clinton since 1993. She has one daughter, two stepchildren, and one grandson who have or will graduate soon from the Morgan School, and she is married to Rick Pinder, a lifelong resident of Clinton. She has a bachelor's degree in microbiology and a master's in biology, and graduated from Quinnipiac Law School with a concentration in tax law. Lynn worked as a research scientist for 15 years at Yale University and Pfizer, and now is partner in her law firm and owns Pinder Construction Company with her husband. Both businesses are located in Clinton. Lynn has been involved in the community and in town government for many years. As a coach, parent, and town official, seated on nearly a dozen boards, commissions, and subcommittees. She has been seated on the Board of Selectmen for 5 years. Wyatt will now introduce Ms. Christine Goupil.
Thank you. Currently, Christine is in her 8th year and 2nd term representing the Democratic Party on the Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission. Previously at the Princeton's Foundation, led by HRA's Prince Charles of Great Britain, Christine worked with a highly qualified team of urban planners, architects, and builders in conjunction with city officials to deliver master plans and community revitalization strategies around the world. Christine also has served on the board of the New York City Parks Enforcement Mounted Auxiliary Unit. With a bachelor's degree from the State University of New York, Christine has actively continued her education at the University of West London and in courses at the Pace Law School and in land use leadership training, Yukon Clear Land Use Academy, and with the Connecticut Council of Municipalities. She and her husband, Alan Felgate, have 2 young boys and a dog. We will now start with the first question, which goes to Ms. Pinder.
Why are you running for the position of First Selectman? What new ideas and/or abilities would you bring to the office?
Okay, so we were told we had a little opening statement. I'm not going to say it, but I do want to thank everyone in the political club and Eric, the school staff, my family. It's funny, I remember sitting here almost 15 years ago and my daughter being one of the first moderators at this debate. Why do I want to run? Why does anyone want to run in this political climate? It's kind of crazy. I've been doing this for about 15 years in town government. I have more experience than I care to remember or forget. I think that I can bring to this office something that's missing. Mainly, I can bring people together. I do it every day at my job. I've shown that I can do it throughout the last 15 years. I think that I can work across the aisle, as Mr. Carr just mentioned. Unfortunately, I actually think I'm going to agree with him on a lot this evening. I don't know why I say unfortunately, sorry, Kirk. I work with Republicans, I work with independents. That to me, I think is something new, and in this current political climate, I think is so important. It's something that has to happen. So why I want to run, and what new ideas can I bring? Okay, so I think that answers it.
All right, the next question is, describe one way that you've been involved in the town. This can be a committee, subcommittee, etc. Have you previous involvements helped to move Clinton in any way that it is today?
That's for me again?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to just mention 2. I'm going to take my time and mention 2. There's a couple of things that I've been involved in pretty heavily over the last 10 years. One is water pollution control. If anyone knows anything about development in this town or the history of this town and the consent order that we've been under, water pollution is hugely important. I was chair of that committee for a commission for, I believe, 3 years, and on it for 4 or 5. Thank you, Willie, he brought me into that. I was integral in starting the process, moving forward, to the current facilities plan that will hopefully go forward in this town. Whether or not, with the budget considerations, that will happen, I don't know. I hope it will. It will also help with economic development. I really do believe that I was really important working with DEEP and with the commission to get that moving. Second, the other hugely important thing I think I've done in the last few years, along with some other folks, was to get the LoSAP program, the pension/retirement program, put through for the fire department, the volunteer fire department. Those guys worked so hard for us, and they've been asking for so many years to get that through. And I'm really proud that Willie and I and the committee were able to get that done for them.
All right, now Christine, an opportunity to answer that question. It is a two-part question, so we can repeat either part. Why are you running for the position of first selectman? What new ideas and or abilities would you bring to the office?
The reason I'm running for first selectman is during the process of working on planning and zoning commission, I encountered the fact that we weren't moving forward projects, and the one thing I do bring forward that I haven't seen taking place in town hall is project management. I think there's endless opportunity in Clinton. EDC is very well aware of it. Planning and zoning has experienced what those potential opportunities can be, but we're not extracting what we could get out of them. I believe that at this point, moving forward the town plan conservation development with over 170 action items within it really could make progress in the town. It could increase our grant list, it could bring in tax revenue, and we need to be able to facilitate those with project management. You need leadership in town hall to bring them together. You also need to be able to bring different boards and commissions together, and you also need to bring the different departments together. At this point, I have never experienced sitting with all the different departments and or the different boards and commissions, and I believe that is absolute priority in terms of dealing with the finances at the state level that are going to impact us, but also to move forward projects.
Thank you. And if you could give us one way or more that you've been involved in the town on either a committee, subcommittee, or a group, and have your previous involvements, do you think, helped to mold Clinton into what it is today?
In particular, I obviously worked on the town plan and conservation development. I won't go into that too much, but that was involving every single board and commission in town, civic organizations, departments, and the public at large. Out of that, one of the top priorities, which was only recently confirmed that we could work on with the consultant planner, is moving forward the regulations changes that could take place at Unilever for adaptive reuse of the site, and the creating a regulations that will allow for more intense development, and also potential researching the wastewater opportunities on there for expansion to the downtown. This is necessary because we recently had a grant and we were awarded to do a marketing and feasibility study for the site. And that marketing feasibility study really tells us what, in addition to the industrial use, can be done at that site as an adaptive reuse. So we need to move forward with that fairly quickly to make sure that we're marketing the site appropriately for developers to come in at an expedited pace.
Great, thank you. And for our next question for Lynn, what would you define as a working relationship between the state of Connecticut and the town of Clinton? How would you improve this relationship, and how would you work with the state and federal government to help our town?
Well, again, I'm going to kind of piggyback on what Kirk said. I mean, this is communication 101. I'm not really sure that the state and town, since Willie left, I know that his communication with the state was amazing. We do have CCM, we do have the River Cog, and we have different entities that are comprised of local leaders who actually do try to help with the communication between the towns and the state. I believe that it's incredibly important, obviously. We have our local representative and senator. Our relationship with them, I don't care what their party affiliation is, has to be rock solid. We need to be in constant communication with them. We can't wait for a crisis in town to go ahead and contact somebody and say, hey, what are you guys going to do? How are you going to help us? We need to be in Hartford. If we can't be in Hartford, or the first selectman can't be in Hartford, then someone from the Board of Selectmen or a representative needs to be in Hartford. We need to know what's going on. We need to make sure that our needs, whether it's something that we've discussed in our town plan, or it's something that the community has said is important, that those things need to be relayed to Hartford. The state's a mess. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. The money's not there. There's things we need. We talk about grants. We talk about getting help from the state, and the money's just not there. I believe we need to be at the forefront, ahead of every other community, every other town, up there banging on the door constantly. And I think that that's part of the job of the first selectman. It can't just be sitting in the office and listening to people in town. It has to be take that and bring it to Hartford. So.
Sure, thank you. And Christine, what would you define as a working relationship between the state of Connecticut and the town of Clinton? And how would you improve this relationship and work with the state and federal government to help our town?
Obviously, everybody's aware of the state issues, and it seems like nothing's functioning. But if you start engaging with some of the departments in the state, things are working very well. I started a housing coalition in town because there's a desperate need for people who can't afford housing in town, deed-restricted housing. And during that process, I've engaged with partnerships for strong communities and the different departments within the state level who are there to support us and make sure that we have the ability to move these things forward. At this point, I think we have to focus on the things that are tangible, working with the circuit rider, with the historic departments up at the state level to possibly create revolving funds within Clinton to protect our historic properties. So like I said, what's going to take place at the state level, I think the infighting perhaps that is taking place and hopefully will be resolved very soon, we need to have communication with our state representatives and insist upon what is necessary for Clinton, but at the same time, we need to pick at that low-hanging fruit of those departments we can engage with and get those small projects done within town that are going to support the town.
Thank you. Our next question is to Lynn first. Clinton is on track to lose close to $6 million in education funding from the state. What policies would you propose to manage this issue? Would you propose tax increases, cuts, or restructuring?
Good question. Kirk already answered it. I'm gonna, thanks, Kirk. So over 6 million. We've had this on the radar for a long time. We did not just find out about this when it came out in the newspaper after our budget passed. The Board of Selectmen was aware of it. We attempted, and I will say, we worked hard. The school, Mary Ann, did an amazing job understanding that we might lose that money to keep her budget as low as she could. The Board of Selectmen tried very hard to do exactly what Mr. Carr just stated. Try to find places where we could cut, try to find places where we could tighten our belt. Some of those cuts went forward to the Board of Finance and were put back into the budget, unfortunately, and we had a tough season. We had a few losses. First of all, we can't pass a $3.3 million deficit budget gap to the town just merely by a special assessment. It would mean another $2 million increase. That's just with a $1.6 billion grand list. We just can't afford it. So there's a few things we could do. One, nobody wants to hear it, but we could take money from undesignated funds. I think we're running at about a 12% undesignated fund balance right now, so we could take some money from there. The second is really what would amount to, I believe, a complete redoing of the budget process, where we would say, okay, boards, commissions, Board of Ed, everybody's got to go back and look at their budgets again and let us know where you believe you can cut. And I think ultimately there will be some maybe passing on in some sort of an increase in the mill rate. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that we do receive the money from the state. I just would like to say that this is not something that just fell out of the sky. I think everybody was aware when they were creating their budgets that we could lose this money. So it's something that the Board of Selectmen thought about, and we tried to, not that we could have alleviated $3.3 million on a $17 million budget, but we could have at least tried to do something. So it could come from a variety of those sources.
Thank you, Ms. Pinder. Now we ask the same question to Ms. Goupil. Clinton is on track to lose close to $6 million in education funding from the state. What policies would you propose to manage that issue? Would you propose tax increases, cuts, or restructuring?
I am aware that the Board of Finance has already found a situation where they can cover $3 million of that, so we're looking at $3 million. I don't think it is feasible in the current budget, our current fiscal state, to cut $3 million from our existing town. I think there is some area that we can make up some of that, and I would recommend creating a shared services committee with department heads sitting on that committee, and possibly some members of the boards and commissions to address some shared services potential. I think we need to reach out to the surrounding towns and start talking about some opportunities for regionalization. I do know the police department has also started having that conversation as well to make up some of the shortfalls. At the end of the day, you know, our grand list is flat. We're not moving forward, so we need to bring in tax revenue, and the only way we're going to do that is through economic development. And the only way we're going to get economic development is if we change our zoning. We're working with antiquated zoning at this point. It's not attractive to developers, and we need to update it. We need to get a town planner and town hall to work with the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Land Use Office to update our zoning so that we're more attractive to developers, so that people actually come into town and we can raise our grand list that way and bring in tax revenue.
Thank you. Response time if she mentioned you by name. Sorry. Kind of feeding into what Christine was talking about, our question to Lynn. What is your plan to encourage economic development in the town? What are your opinions on the current town plan, and do you support any modifications or reforms?
3 questions. Okay, the plan of conservation and development. For everybody, just so that they're aware, every town is responsible for having a town plan of conservation and development. We have to have one in place, up to date, every 10 years. The current plan we have actually does call for a biennial review. I just want to point out, I haven't read it front to back, but there are some things that could probably be changed or should be changed based on what has happened and occurred in the last couple of years. The Unilever project is not going forward. I know Christine has discussed some ideas and plans for that. Obviously, the old school site. I believe that the plan of conservation and development does not always agree with the current regulations in town. It states that in the town plan of conservation and development that our regulations need to be revamped and rewritten so that it is consistent with it. So I think that presents a problem for planning and zoning when developers come in, because per land use law, they must not only meet the regulations, they generally should be consistent with the town plan. The town plan, unfortunately, is not, it's advisory to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it is a well-drafted and, extensive document, but it's been in place for a couple of years. We've seen developers come in, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem to me that many of those developers, whether it's based on opposition from the town, or it's based on the fact that the Planning and Zoning Commission does not believe that they are consistent with the town plan, that they're able to comply. So in my mind, that means maybe we should revisit. You asked 3 questions. Town plan.
Encouraging economic development.
Encouraging economic development. So we're not working in a vacuum in Clinton. We have to remember that the developers come to us. We can do what we want with our town plan, and I think the visions are great, and visions are awesome, and the best laid plans sometimes don't always come true. We have financing issues. We have developers who are willing to come here. We have market issues that we have to deal with. So yes, encouragement of economic development is absolutely necessary. I agree with Christine. We have to increase our tax base. Those things don't make things happen overnight. But our town plan, our regulations have to be not only friendly, they need to show what we want to happen in town, but we also have to remember that the developers are the ones bringing the money. We can't tell people what to do with their own private property.
Thank you. And the same question to Ms. Goupil. What is your plan to encourage economic development in the town? What are your opinions on the current town plan, and do you support any modifications or reforms?
My plans to encourage economic development in town, and again, I go back to we need a town planner overseeing the land use office, as addition to we need the support at the planning and zoning level so that we can rewrite our regulations and change our zoning. Currently, as I said, we're stagnated and we're not getting the development that everybody thinks we should be getting. We're not attractive to developers because the surrounding towns around us have their zoning updated so that it is consistent with what the market bears. We recently got, as I said, a marketing feasibility study for the Unilever site and surrounding area, and that is pretty close to what the market bears right now, and we should be utilizing that to look at our zoning for certain areas of town as to what the developers will do and what will come in for. Sorry, the second question was surrounding.
And your opinions on the town plan modifications and reforms and how the town plan can either spur or inhibit economic growth.
So the town plan of conservation development was approved in November 2015, and from that day, nothing has moved forward, not one of the action items, except for the most recent one, which is the ad hoc committee formed to work on Unilever, has moved forward. So it's very frustrating for me to watch all these action items within the town plan, which really could spur economic development move forward. The Economic Development Committee has also been very frustrated with it. They have come to the Board of Selectmen with ideas that they would like to move forward. At this point, we need the consultant planner, who we're paying $48,000 a year, to be working for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Currently, he reports to the Board of Selectmen, so we do not have an opportunity to utilize him as much as we would like to do. So, like I said, in terms of economic development, I strongly feel we need to update our zoning based on what the market will bear, and the Plan of Conservation Development is amendable. At any time, it can be amended by motion of Planning and Zoning Commission and through the public process. That's not an issue so much as getting it done and getting the zoning written. I am a strong proponent of design standards. I think that supports the what type of development we want to come into town, and it also gives confidence to developers that they know that the property that they're going to develop is going to reside next to another property that is attractive and will maintain the property values. Currently, we only have design standards in one area of the town, and I feel strongly that we need to adopt further design standards to support the general sense of place and look of Clinton.
Thank you, Ms. Goupil. Now we go back to Ms. Pinder for the next question. Which recent zoning plans are you in favor of or against?
Okay, so I'm a huge proponent of highest best use of properties. So recent decisions that have been made, I've said in application processes for some, I like to see industrial properties being used to their highest best use. So there's been a couple of decisions that have allowed that recently. There was one on Route 145. Christine's going to have to remind me the name of the applicant. The recycling facility on Route 145. Yeah, I understand. I know, and I would love to see something happen there because that's, I believe, a really good place for some industrial use. I actually was for the CVS. A lot of you probably don't want to hear that. I think that the original design that they had brought forward was one that fit in. I think that the property that Mike Milano built on Route 1 is amazing. I think people are forgetting that, and I'm hearing a lot of nothing's happening. But that project actually, I believe, is very well designed and is being very well maintained, and I believe is almost full capacity, if maybe not just for the residential. So those are two things that, like I said, industrial use of property, and when folks can come in and work with planning and zoning and then ultimately have a positive outcome for everybody, those are the types of things that I like to see happen. I certainly don't like to see tons of opposition, but like I said, I was for the original CVS plan. So I don't think there's been any other recent things that I had a personal opinion on. So.
Thank you for that answer. And Ms. Goupil, which recent zoning plans are you in favor of or against?
I think everybody probably very well knows what I'm in favor of and what I'm not in favor of. Ms. Pinder spoke of the Milano property. He worked very well with the zoning board and also the ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, to get that project through. It was quite excruciating for him, and I feel for him, and it shouldn't be that way. It's a type of development that everybody has good feelings about in town, and we should make sure our zoning and our regulations align more with what he's trying to do, which is mixed use. And this is where I'm saying we need to update our zoning regulations. So the process that he went through was not so painful. One project which I'm very much not in favor of, which went through very recently, it was a two-stage process where they had to actually change zoning and then came in with their application. And just to preface it, we currently went from 65% residential to 75% residential in our town. And residential properties really are not bringing in tax revenue. I feel as though it's a regressive tax in town. We're going to do to bring in tax revenue is through business zones and industrial zones, and they have been encroached on over time because of our poor zoning in town. And until we do that, until we start to expand our business zones and industrial zones and to do higher and better use on those sites, we're going to be stagnated in terms of our grand list. So speaking specifically of the application, our business zone was just recently changed to allow for apartment buildings. That means residential strictly can be allowed on a site in a business zone, and I feel that that takes away from our grand list. I just do not approve of that at this stage of the direction that Clinton's going in. We need to increase our business zones and industrial. I believe in mixed use, shops, etc. on the lower floors or mixed within, and apartments above, but not strictly looking at residential in a business zone.
Thank you. And another question, I know you both already touched on this earlier, but could you both go more in depth on the recently prominent issue of hiring a town manager? So we'll start with Ms. Pinder.
So this has been a fun topic over the last few months. So there's no secret out there, I don't believe in this group, that as sitting on the board of Selectmen, I actually voted not to send the charter revision inclusion of a town manager to referendum in November. Since that time, as you are aware, there was a petition of over 1,200 folks who signed, and statutorily came back to Board of Selectmen, and we actually did vote to put that forward to referendum. There's, as Mr. Carr again, here mentioning him again, giving him a lot of name time here tonight. There are some glitches, and I'm going to circle back now as to why I actually did not vote to send to referendum in the first place. I am not wholly against the idea of a town manager in the town of Clinton. I have not seen any research that shows me that it would put us in a better position financially, increase our grand list, or help us market this town any better if we hire a $150,000 to $170,000 a year person who is essentially in charge of administrating the town's books and its employees. I believe that in this current fiscal crisis time, and I do believe it's crisis time, we shouldn't be adding more salaries on top of what we already have. I do agree with Christine that a town planner is prudent, and I believe that that's what most people believe a town manager may actually do for us. Now, that said, I'm not entirely against it, but I did believe that the revision committee, as hard as they worked, and I know they worked hard because I previously sat on the charter revision committee myself, they worked extremely hard. I did not believe that the document was ready to go to referendum because of many reasons. One of which I did not catch, and I will say that at the beginning, but there is no effective date for the town manager. If we went in November, it would be 30 days after, effectively leaving us with no government. So rest assured, the Board of Selectmen is trying to figure that out, but whoever wins this office will likely have to transfer out of it into a town manager position if there's an affirmative vote on that matter. So I hope that answers the question.
And now we will give Ms. Goupil a chance to answer the question. Would you like it repeated?
Sure.
So I know that you both touched on this earlier, but could you go more in depth on the recently prominent issue of a town manager, and why would you support it, why not?
I'm in support of both the charter reform and a lot of the criteria within it, and also a town manager. I believe politics is killing this town. I truly believe it's sitting on planning and zoning, meeting with the other boards and commissions around town. Decisions sometimes, it's not so much party line, but just decisions are made on personalities, etc. And that's not how we should be operating. I strongly feel that somebody from the outside with professional experience would be able to come in and administrate the policies that would be set forth by the Board of Selectmen and by that first selectman position underneath them, and eliminate some of the issues that are residing in town, decisions not being made because one person brings it forward over another person. So I did sign the petition. I feel strongly about that. I have been following the progress taking place in Simsbury. They have just moved over to that form of government, and I will continue to follow closely. Regarding the petition that was brought forward and the current status of the charter reform, I know it did go before the Board of Selectmen, and it was also reviewed by the town attorney twice. So I'm concerned that the town attorney had an opportunity to review that document twice, yet did miss a critical date within that document highlighting when the transition would take place. So that's very concerning to me. So thanks.
Thank you. Now our final question, this has been mentioned previously, but for Mrs. Pinder, how would you better facilitate communication between town boards and other committees?
Okay, so yes, by charter there is a requirement that we meet once a year. I have always found that in my last 15 years being involved on many boards and commissions to be something that is definitely not suited for making sure things get done. I have actually, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, have over the last couple of years had an opportunity to say, hey, let's just see if we can get these groups together and come up with decisions. I think that when something comes up and there might be some, Christine's talking about, maybe personality discourse, or not necessarily political, but when there seems to be something happening between boards and commissions that needs to be dealt with, I think it's important to we can have joint meetings. There's nothing that says in our charter that we cannot have joint meetings between boards and commissions. It's incredibly important to do that. We should not be worried about politics, what party we're in. As Christine said, I'm going to agree completely. Personalities, what we need to be doing as quickly and as possibly and as efficiently as possible, get to the bottom of things and get things done properly. I am a huge proponent of getting things done properly, by charter, by law, by bylaws of boards and commissions. Let's get things done, and it should be the job of the leader, the first selectman, to say, hey guys, let's get in a room and talk about this stuff. What's the problem, and let's get it done. Most of the times those things don't happen in executive session. They can happen out in the public, and I think that's also very important for transparency and whatnot. I'm also a huge proponent of that. So I would encourage constant contact and communication. And I, as first selectman, personally, I think it would be my job to be at as many meetings as possible, especially those where the community has voiced an opinion one way or another in opposition or in favor of something. I think it's important for the first selectman to be incredibly in touch with what's happening in town, regardless of whether or not, it might not be important to the person sitting in the office at that desk, but if it's important to one person in this town, it's important to me. And that's how I functioned for the last 15 years on whatever I've sat on, and that's how I would continue to function.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Goupil, would you like the question to be repeated? Okay. How would you better facilitate communication between town boards and other committees?
First and foremost, as a project manager, that is one of the most important roles that you take, and that is what I've always done in my career. Operating as a project manager, you need to bring teams together, you need to set timelines and establish deadlines and expectations from people. So that is one of the first things I would make sure I would take upon myself when I would get in office, along with the Board of Selectmen. Again, I mentioned a shared services committee to address some of the areas of town that we can look for inefficiencies and cost-saving measures. And then again, the town plan of conservation development in the back of that document are endless opportunities for the town, and it calls out the different boards and commissions that should be working together. There should be a lead organization, and then some of the sub-boards that could be working together to move forward some of the policies for our town. I agree with Lynn on a lot of the potential for our town and regarding working together boards and commissions. I firmly would establish, my first day in office is brown bag lunch once a week. People from the public, businesses, whatever can come forward, sit around the table, round table format, and everybody just talk about what they think is going on in town. We haven't had an opportunity to meet in that type of forum since really we had the town plan of conservation and development when we had the shred at the town hall, and everybody got together and really talked about what they see as a potential in the town. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to be had, but we just need the leadership to bring it forward and to assemble everybody together to have that communication.
All right, thank you for that response. As we're wrapping it up, we would now like to offer all the candidates, including welcoming Mr. Carr back up onto the stage, to offer a 5-minute closing statement. Starting with Lynn and Christina. Mr. Carr.
All right, wow. So we were told we had a 3-minute opening statement. Now we have a 5-minute closing.
Well, the first question that we asked,
I know, I'm just kidding. I'm giving you a hard. We were just joking that we put together 3-minute opening statements. Okay, so I'm going to use part of my opening and my closing. So I came here in 1993. I came here as a single mom, and this community opened their hearts to me. Some of you are in this room. Read books to my child in the library, carpooled with me to my first job at Pfizer, shared babysitters with me when I needed one desperately. Immediately, I got involved in coaching and trying to give back. Got involved in the school, got involved in a million things. Because I felt it was my duty. I came from a city. I lived in East Hartford, lived in New Haven, came here, and wow, right? 13,000 awesome people. So I just want to say that over that time frame, I've gained so much experience. I came from, went from loving this town to knowing this town. I know it well. I know you. I try to listen the best I can. I think it's a really important time to have someone who has experience, the municipal experience that we need. We've gone through a really tough election federally. We didn't, because you guys are mostly Democrats, but we elected, I say we lightly, somebody with no experience for change for change's sake. I don't think, I've heard this a lot in the last few months as I've been talking to people. Change is important, but let's just not vote for change just to have change. A lot of good things have happened in the last 10 years. I want to tell you that I'm not establishment. I'm not sitting in that office as somebody who wants power or wants First Selectman next to my name. I'm doing this because I care about you. I care about agendas that are important to the town, not to me. I have not once ever voted in 15 years for something because I had a personal agenda or my heart was in it personally. I've done it because I've felt it's in the best interest of the town of Clinton. What else can I say? I truly believe that I would be the person who can give you the experience, the dedication, the promise that I will work with every board and commission in this town and every citizen to the best of my ability. There's a lot of people out there with an open mind. If any of you know me, you know I'm incredibly strong-willed and I can argue with you till the cows come home. But if you give me an alternate opinion, I can look at you and say, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. That's great, let's run with it. I'm not somebody who won't listen and work with you. So those are the things I can promise you. I can promise you, like I said, experience, love for this town, knowledge of this town. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm a negotiator by trade. And I just want to thank you all for coming tonight and listening to us. This is a huge, huge historic primary. It's crazy. And I really hope you all get out to vote on Tuesday. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pinder. Ms. Goupil, if you'd like to have a 5-minute closing statement.
So my husband and I moved to Clinton before we had kids, and we saw this community with this beautiful beach environment and parks, and such a welcoming community that I've never experienced before. And then we saw the downtown with great infrastructure and bones, and I really felt as though it could boom and prosper, and that's how I got involved with Downtown Revitalization Committee, Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Town Plan of Conservation and Development. And I truly believe that the town plan calls for the many initiatives, and it will increase the tax revenue that's so necessary to lower our taxes, rebuild our infrastructure, support everything from the police department, the fire department, our public schools, our open space, our library, which is so wonderful. And as for Selectmen, I really feel as though we need to move that forward, and I will do that forward, and I'll bring the leadership to that. As for Selectmen, I'll bring project management and facilitate communication between the different boards and commissions, and long-term strategic planning with department heads. As for Selectmen, I will bring professionalism to Town Hall. I will work with the Board of Finance to hire a town planner and guide the Planning and Zoning Commission and Land Use Office on updating regulations and zoning to make our town more attractive to developers. I will lower taxes through smart growth initiatives and to raise our grand list by harvesting those opportunities at Unilever to Stanley Bostitch to the current Morgan School site. I will market Clinton. We've never really fully marketed Clinton. There's so much potential there. I will work with EDC. I will work with the state, the Economic and Community Development Organizations. I will work with the RiverCog, our regional planning agency, and the Chamber to come up with entrepreneurial and smart business development strategies, neighborhood development strategies. I will implement a committee for the Shared Services Committee, implement shared services committees, as I indicated, and I will work with the Board of Finance and again the Department of Economic and Community Development on some of the transparent tax incentives that we can use to bring in the types of developments that we do want. I will dedicate half of every day I am sitting in office to economic development, and the other portions of the time will be dedicated to all the other things that need to be addressed at the First Selectman level. I will do a better job helping people on fixed income. Currently, we have 8.7% poverty rate in Clinton. That is pretty high. We have 77 plus seniors who are on a wait list for affordable housing. I will work with the Board of Finance to create a better structure for our senior property tax program to help people stay in the community who want to stay in the community. So I've spent years learning the governance of Clinton, and I will represent our citizens with ethics and honesty. I'll make Clinton a place to do business and attract new businesses to town to increase the grand list. I encourage appropriate economic development while protecting our small town character, our open space, and our fragile coastal environment. I've been very forthcoming about my policies, both on my website and on social media, but feel free to contact me at any point should you have further questions about anything I stand for. And thank you so much to Eric Bergman and the Morgan Political Club for hosting us, and to Carr and Lynn Pinder for engaging. Thank you.
Thank you.